A massive police blockade just locked down an exclusive Catalina Foothills community as investigators intensely hunt for the missing Nancy Guthrie. This major tactical operation is centered around Orange Grove and First Avenue. With barricades completely sealing off Placita de Graciela and Camino de Michael, our correspondent Jacob Owens is standing by right outside the perimeter with breaking updates. So Jacob, what fresh details have emerged from the ground since our previous check-in? Well, Sean, it is intense. Just to clarify our exact position, we are stationed inside the Shadow Hills subdivision near Orange Grove and First Street, watching massive police maneuvers unfold. Endless convoys of cruisers just keep rolling past our position. We are currently planted right at the corner of Camino de Michael and Placita de Michael. Take a look at this evening's footage, which ties directly into the ongoing search for Nancy Guthrie. Authorities have swarmed this block for 2 solid hours, and sources tell us detectives are completely zeroing in on one specific property out here. Rumors suggest 2 individuals were taken into custody, though deputies refuse to verify those claims just yet. Officials clearly stated they plan to withhold any formal announcements for this evening. However, our cameras captured massive tactical teams deploying heavy armored trucks, rolling alongside upwards of 20 different emergency response cars. For roughly 90 minutes, frustrated residents found themselves completely blocked from returning to their own properties down these streets. Fortunately, deputies are finally starting to let locals pass through the barricades. The Catalina Foothills hardly resembles a typical crime scene setting. You will find sprawling, peaceful avenues flanking luxurious, million-dollar estates tucked far away from the pavement. Immaculate lawns line the paths where locals recognize every single vehicle, yard worker, and early morning runner. It stands as one of the richest postal zones across the entire state of Arizona. This community remains so intensely sheltered from violence that disruptions immediately grab national headlines, and America certainly ground to a sudden halt. Sometime between the late evening of January 31st and the pre-dawn hours of February 1st, 2026, an 84-year-old grandmother vanished directly from her house. Investigators discovered matching bloodstains across her entryway. Meanwhile, the security lens outside abruptly disconnected at precisely 1:47 before dawn. Before relatives could even sense the danger, the unthinkable had already occurred. The victim is Nancy Guthrie, whose daughter, Savannah Guthrie, famously anchors the Today broadcast over on NBC. Fast forward to right now. Roughly 2 long months later, and Nancy remains completely missing. Yet the trajectory of this police probe just shifted. Something incredibly profound. Federal agents recently swarmed those exact streets again, completely ditching the standard follow-ups or repetitive interrogations from the initial phase, based on intel from NewsNation's lead sleuth, Brian Enton. This fiercely dedicated correspondent practically lived down in Tucson tracking leads, confirming that returning federal operatives brought highly targeted, intensely personalized questions demanding answers about very specific individuals. Furthermore, every single inquiry zeroes in on a neighboring property located mere steps from Nancy's main entrance, an estate that stood entirely empty until recently, a mysterious property that alarmed a veteran tactical leader from that identical jurisdiction, Pima County. This expert confessed to Parade magazine during a private sit-down that the dwelling likely served as a sinister command post, an ambush point where the culprit masterminded everything. The stalker lurked there, studying daily routines and clocking neighborhood patterns before February 1st. Right now, we are stepping through those very doors, strictly forensically, not physically. This deep dive comes courtesy of a veteran police captain boasting 30 years of tactical knowledge regarding these exact foothills, who expertly broke down the sinister plot orchestrated inside. His chilling descriptions and the intense terminology he utilized, the analytical lens he provided will literally force every single true crime follower to freeze in absolute shock. Keep paying attention, since these overlooked developments represent the absolute epicenter of the ongoing manhunt. Prior to exploring the interior, you must fully grasp the speaker's background, since unquestionable authority dictates everything throughout such sensitive inquiries. Bob Craig hardly resembles an amateur audio host peddling wild guesses. He isn't some internet influencer desperate for viral clicks. Instead, he formerly led the elite tactical unit protecting Pima County, that encompasses the identical jurisdiction, region, and precise desert landscape hosting Nancy Guthrie's estate when tragedy violently struck. His entire professional lifetime revolved around executing dangerous sting maneuvers across neighborhoods mirroring the Catalina Foothills. The man intimately understands how pitch black those exact roads appear at 2 in the morning. From an operational standpoint, he completely grasps the strategic precision required to pull off a surgical ambush without triggering local alarms. Furthermore, this hardly marks his inaugural public commentary regarding the abduction. During a prior spotlight piece for Parade magazine, Craigaria scrutinized the existing clues. He studied the disguised intruder on camera, deeply analyzing the handwear and strapped firearm. Evaluating the pre-dawn obscurity, the expert formulated an incredibly calculated hypothesis. His direct quote to the publication stated, "I absolutely believe this strike was fiercely intentional. It feels intensely personalized, zeroing squarely on this sole property." Pushing the analysis deeper, he noted the meticulous preparation highlighted a deliberate agenda driving the perpetrator. Despite perhaps lacking the polish of an elite mastermind, they undoubtedly possessed a blueprint, staying completely invisible following the brazen attack, just as he phrased it. Methodical, calculated, and perfectly executed. That initial behavioral assessment was just the beginning, as Krieger dropped a massive bombshell in a March 19th Parade exclusive. The seasoned profiler has completely moved past simply analyzing the culprit's psychological traits. He is laying out the actual physical staging ground, moving far beyond mere claims of premeditation. Instead, he pinpoints the exact location where this dark scheme was likely engineered, which completely changes the game. Let us not forget that a massive national outlet like Parade actively chased him down right after Brian Enton revealed the Bureau's fresh focus on that empty house. This proves the authorities are taking these developments incredibly seriously behind closed doors. We must separate the facts from the rumors by looking at who said what, starting with a March 17th video update. During that broadcast, Enton dropped an absolute bombshell about federal agents that nobody else had caught yet. Relying on solid police contacts, he claimed investigators circled back to the Catalina Foothills to probe a local rental home. Interestingly enough, the previous tenants had cleared out right when Nancy vanished without a trace. To quote the journalist directly, authorities are taking a much closer look at a specific resident who packed up before the abduction took place. Enton made sure to clarify that this residence might not be directly tied to the terrible crime. Yet the feds were fiercely interrogating locals about the dwelling and its former occupants' exact departure timeline. Meanwhile, Dave Mack from Crime Stories stepped into the spotlight with a drastically conflicting narrative. His sources insisted those very tenants actually fled the scene right after the woman was snatched away. These statements are definitely not just minor variations of a single timeline. They represent completely opposing viewpoints regarding the move, and both carry wildly different investigative consequences. Should Enton be correct about the early move? This house essentially became a ghost town right before the strike. An abandoned building guarantees zero eyewitnesses to catch any bizarre or suspicious movements, leaving the coast completely clear for a trespasser to set up shop without raising any red flags whatsoever. Under those specific circumstances, an empty residence leading up to February 1st becomes the ultimate staging ground. As Krieger noted, an absolute goldmine for a predator needing a hidden vantage point to stalk the neighborhood undetected. However, if Mack is actually on the money about them fleeing post-abduction, the whole mystery shifts gears. Fleeing a leased home without warning right after a massive local crime spree looks incredibly fishy. Though, legally speaking, detectives view this type of hasty exit as an evasive maneuver rather than just an ordinary relocation. It screams of a desperate escape plan, the exact kind of frantic, panicked vanishing act that occurs when staying put becomes far too dangerous. And agents are probing both angles. Enton noting their relentless questioning proves this angle is far from a dead end. Those are the actions of a desperately active manhunt, meaning one of these journalists has the real scoop. The Bureau already knows the truth, but we need to examine two vigilant locals who sensed trouble before the police even arrived. A nearby resident named Laura went on camera with Enton right on her street to detail the strange things she witnessed firsthand. She explicitly mentioned that while leased homes are incredibly rare around her block, one specific house stood out. The occupants vanished completely just days around the tragedy, and she immediately noticed their missing vehicle. Putting the pieces together, she realized the automobile disappeared right around the horrific kidnapping incident. While she could not pinpoint if it vanished exactly before February 1st, her gut instinct pushed her to dial the authorities. She explained her thought process. "I figured it might be a wild goose chase, but I had to report that those specific tenants were suddenly gone." She made that crucial call because in a tight-knit community where everyone knows their neighbor's daily habits, an evaporating car, without a single moving van or warning, triggers massive internal alarms. Not necessarily a murder plot, but sketchy enough to flag down the cops. Which brings us to Aldine Meister. This observant woman has called the Catalina Foothills her home for almost 30 solid years. Let me tell you, right out of the gate. She warned Brian Enton about that empty house several times during the initial investigation, bringing it up totally unprompted right after Nancy vanished. She held nothing back with Enton, bluntly stating that the folks next door had just packed up and she desperately needed authorities to search that empty place. That was week 1, when she called it out immediately. Yet it took 6 whole weeks for the feds to finally ask the exact questions Aldine Meister practically begged them to address. Meister also dropped another massive bombshell during those interviews. When you combine her revelation with Kreger's recent public statements, the entire situation suddenly feels much darker and more sinister just before the disappearance. About 2 or 3 weeks prior, she confessed to Anton that she spotted an unfamiliar guy wandering around their usually quiet, tight-knit streets. His face was completely obscured since he had his cap yanked down and was walking with a heavy, unnatural slouch. He completely lacked fitness apparel or trail gear, wearing regular casual clothes while prowling an area where outsiders always stand out. He definitely looked suspicious. As she stated on camera, "I caught sight of this extremely creepy dude with his cap pulled way down." She mentioned he was slouching hard. Definitely not dressed for a hike or a run, but rather wearing standard, dark everyday apparel. It struck her as super bizarre since that never happens, a total stranger lurking around a tight community where everybody knows everybody else. Keep that mental picture fresh, because ex-FBI agent Jennifer Kidnapper, easily one of the most highly qualified experts breaking down this baffling mystery, firmly believes the disguised suspect caught lurking on that specific security doorbell footage showed up on January 11th, a full 3 weeks before the kidnapping, pulling off what Kidnapper openly called a calculated practice attempt. That remains her seasoned expert opinion rather than an official declaration from the Federal Bureau. However, we definitely should highlight that the Guthrie family's latest press release specifically begged locals to dig deep and recall anything strange from January 11th and January 24th. They avoided vague timeframes, pinpointing those exact 2 days instead. Anytime relatives partnering with federal agents urge citizens to zero in on a pair of distinct, targeted nights, happening weeks prior to the offense, you absolutely know those timelines hold massive evidentiary value. If that heavily slouched, cap-wearing outsider Aldine Meister noticed was indeed carrying out what Kidnapper labeled a sinister practice drill in the weeks leading up to February 1st. Then Meister absolutely witnessed him in action, observing him creep along the road, studying the house, memorizing schedules, finding vulnerabilities, and taking mental notes. She immediately called it in. Yet the feds waited 6 whole weeks to finally execute what she demanded from the very beginning. Let us dive deep into the tactical setup Kreger explained, as the terminology he shared with the press was far from your average everyday chatter. He speaks like a seasoned pro with 30 years of experience designing and running covert missions in suburban neighborhoods just like this one. He mentioned to reporters how detectives might view an empty property as a potential hideout or a centralized prep zone for the perpetrators involved. Those were his exact chilling terms. Hideouts and prep areas serve as tactical bases to gather your equipment ahead of time and securely stash your essential supplies, acting as a safe haven between scouting missions, letting you blend right in without sparking suspicion because you seemingly belong there perfectly. You just look like another normal tenant who recently moved in next door. Not a single person questions a vehicle parked outside. Kreger explained to journalists how snagging a local rental provides the ultimate excuse to hang around the area at all hours. That serves as a cover, rather than an alibi, a crucial difference he highlighted on purpose. Alibis defend your whereabouts post-crime, Whereas a solid cover validates why you are lingering around before any trouble even goes down. Basically, a creep could easily park along that road, chilling inside their vehicle past midnight without causing a scene. If a curious local peeks out, the stalker has a quick response. "Ready, I just moved in next door." Boom. Situation diffused. And the cops never get called. Then Kreger dropped a much more heavily tactical piece of terrifying insight. He warned reporters that working secretly from an empty neighboring house keeps a predator completely hidden from view, allowing them to quietly monitor community habits and effortlessly track exactly when folks leave or return. They could easily clock everyone's daily routines, taking special care to memorize Nancy's exact personal schedule. Drawing on almost 30 years of Pima County police experience, he is expertly describing textbook, highly calculated pre-attack stalking. Every single heavily premeditated kidnapping features this exact kind of sinister scouting phase. Criminals never just show up and wing a flawless snatch and grab. They always watch from the shadows first. They figure out the local flow, piecing together when a victim is completely isolated, highly defenseless, and easiest to corner. They chart the blind spots from roughly 50 feet out, which is honestly playing it quite safe for house spacing up in the Catalina Foothills. Staring at a residence relentlessly for weeks on end reveals completely terrifying, intimate details about the person living inside. A dedicated watcher easily figures out the exact minute those bedroom lamps flip on or off. They memorize your morning habits alongside your evening rituals, quickly figuring out if you prefer using the main entryway or sneaking through the garage. Dead giveaways are everywhere if you just pay attention, like spotting a vehicle pulling up or clocking the exact seconds a garage takes to shut. Spotting blind spots in neighborhood security setups becomes incredibly easy over time. Figuring out if a target sleeps single or hosts late-night guests is totally doable. And that is a stone-cold fact. Staking out a spot just 50 feet away for several weeks grants you this chilling advantage. Official logs from Nancy's last known night show: she grabbed a rideshare heading to a relative's house at 5:32 on the evening of January 31st. The driver brought her back by 9:48, and the bay doors sealed shut just 2 minutes later at 9:50. Locking her safely inside, the surrounding block stayed pitch black, with absolutely zero guests dropping by. Suddenly, her front porch lens totally died at 1:47 in the morning on February 1st. According to Kreger's expert tactical assessment, any stalker scoping out that residence from a neighboring yard beforehand would clearly realize the time frame between 9:48 and 1:47 was their absolute perfect window to strike. Roughly 4 isolated hours ticked by in a completely silent, witness-free zone. The disguised phantom caught on that porch recording showed up completely ready. We absolutely know he wore a balaclava, thick gloves, winter outerwear, trousers, a sidearm rig, and a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiking sack. Federal investigators officially classify the suspect as an average-built man standing roughly 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, even after many months. Authorities haven't named or cuffed anyone, proving this definitely wasn't some random, spur-of-the-moment wardrobe choice. Any seasoned pro breaking down the clip agrees that this guy is rocking specialized tactical gear. He geared up for a highly calculated mission mapped out for one particular evening. Now, listen closely to Kreger's Parade magazine feature, because I firmly believe it contains the absolute most crucial insight delivered by any vetted authority since federal agents dropped that chilling porch video. He explicitly warned the publication, and I really want to quote his phrasing with absolute precision here, that an empty residence hidden away from nosy locals. Such spots offer an ideal hiding place for someone to secretly rig up high-tech monitoring gear if they wanted to. Furthermore, a creep could effortlessly conceal those tracking devices right inside a building or across the grounds, totally undetected. This comes straight from a former Pima County tactical team leader's expert evaluation, rather than some random online conspiracy. It isn't just clickbait gossip, but a solid logistical breakdown from a veteran who spent his life dissecting how tactical strikes are orchestrated and carried out locally. Imagine hidden recording gear tucked away inside a building without drawing any suspicion. This goes way beyond some creepy guy peeking through the blinds using field glasses. The expert suggests a highly probable scenario involving a hardwired setup, like a hidden lens, or an audio bug. They could have rigged up movement detectors or systems that continuously watch Nancy's place for ages without needing an actual person sitting there. The perpetrator could easily stream this live footage from miles away, all while the house looked completely abandoned to anyone strolling down the sidewalk. Federal authorities are fully aware this tactic works perfectly, and Kreger definitely agrees. Seeing government investigators march back into that exact community several weeks deep into the manhunt, exclusively grilling locals about that abandoned parcel, proves they consider this high-tech stalking angle credible enough to actively chase down. Let us shift to the builder angle, which is a massive secondary probe that mainstream media completely ignored or buried alive. We must pay attention to this clue since it heavily hints at the actual direction federal detectives are leaning toward. Based on Brian Anton's journalism, those agents went way beyond merely inquiring about the empty lease property. At the very same time, detectives aggressively pressed locals to identify every single builder and handyman operating on nearby unfinished homes during the weeks right before Nancy vanished into thin air. They ignored corporate titles entirely, bypassing broad job summaries. They demanded the exact personal identities of each laborer tied to specific dates, leaving nobody out. One local revealed to News Nation how her buddy, who was having some renovations done down the block, got cornered by government officials demanding a comprehensive roster of every single tradesman that stepped foot on the job site, with zero exceptions. So why connect this to the abandoned property probe? It makes sense because both temporary tenants and manual laborers share an incredibly vital tactical advantage. Both groups possess totally normal, unquestioned, routine clearance to roam around a private subdivision without triggering the usual alarms that an outsider normally would. Nobody bats an eye at a heavy-duty rig parked out front at 7 o'clock in the morning. Nor do guys eating sandwiches on the curb look suspicious. These activities seamlessly melt into the local scenery, completely bypassing the intense scrutiny a random pedestrian would instantly attract. Handymen naturally soak up tons of intel just by being on site all day. They easily spot the early risers versus the late sleepers, memorize the property layouts perfectly, and hang around the exact same block for countless weeks or months. Imagine needing the perfect, invisible vantage point to stalk a target's house repeatedly. A local building crew offers the ultimate camouflage, exactly as the strategic framework previously suggested. Speaking on television, ex-federal agent Steve Moore accurately decoded the true significance behind this incredibly intense federal probe. He verified that investigators are certainly backtracking, but he provided one absolutely vital distinction. Reviewing old ground isn't retreating. It proves they are advancing after shaking a fresh clue loose. A fresh suspect, an unlocked memory, or vital data demanding comparison with existing files, forms two concurrent paths. Federal operatives are simultaneously chasing down leads regarding the empty lease and the builders. Within the strategic model, both pose the exact same terrifying riddle who actually possess the perfect excuse to repeatedly linger near the target's house during the weeks before February 1st, and did a predator weaponize that innocent alibi for truly sinister motives? Listen. We need to examine exactly what forensic protocols dictate the Federal Evidence Response Squad will hunt for inside that building. This is strictly proven investigative methodology, not wild guessing. People unknowingly leave a constant trail of biological debris behind them. Dead skin constantly transfers onto frequently touched everyday surfaces. Hair strands carrying root cells easily cling to couches, rugs, and floors. Microscopic spit droplets coat doorknobs, drinking glasses, and anything resting roughly around eye level. Whenever a suspect occupies a location for just a few weeks, the buildup of microscopic touch DNA becomes incredibly dense and highly revealing. This invisible evidence settles deep inside rug threads, textured wooden panels, door thresholds, window ledges, and across the rear sections of seating. The paramount advantage of a leased home is that the roster of individuals legally permitted indoors remains entirely finite and extremely trackable. Landlords keep records of previous occupants. Investigators can easily question past renters, completely ruling out their genetic profiles through willing swab tests. Whatever survives this rigorous clearing phase is unauthorized biological residue originating from an intruder who lacked any lawful right to enter. Here is exactly why this concept fundamentally transforms the entire current investigation. The local sheriff's department verified this openly, with Sheriff Nanos officially stating for the press that crime scene techs pulled blended DNA from the residents. They found multi-source genetic sequences completely unrelated to the victim or her closest friends. Nanos boldly announced to reporters, "We suspect that we have successfully captured the actual perpetrator's genetic signature right here." However, this complex mixture presents hurdles. Forensic labs are struggling to untangle the overlapping genetic strands, potentially delaying results for 12 full months. Detectives are currently utilizing advanced genetic genealogy tracing. It is the exact method that caught the Golden State Killer and the Idaho College attacker, yet a secondary staging area alters the entire playing field. If the culprit utilized the empty building as an operational outpost, and just to clarify perfectly, that stays an expert theory rather than absolute certainty, then this place transcends local gossip. It actively functioned as the villain's primary kidnapping command center. Furthermore, if lab testing uncovers cellular traces linking directly back to the unidentified sample from the victim's house, detectives gain an incredibly rare prosecutorial weapon: multi-location genetic matches, 2 distinct investigative locations, 2 isolated collection procedures, secure chains of custody, yet the exact same genetic fingerprint at both spots. This produces an absolute legal nightmare. Justify how your bodily fluids reached both locations. Detail exactly why your unique DNA sits inside a kidnapped woman's living room and the adjacent vacant structure simultaneously. Every seasoned federal attorney knows this establishes a vastly stronger evidentiary foundation than any solitary location sample, especially when combined with physical impressions. Shifting furniture to optimize a viewing angle toward the target's property leaves marks. Deep rug indentations practically demand commercial-grade steam cleaning to completely erase. Analysts easily recover shoe scuffs on ledges where a stalker repeatedly stood watch. Should the suspect install and subsequently extract hidden cameras? The extraction leaves glaring clues. Think drilled holes or tape residue possessing unique chemical signatures, hidden wiring routes running alongside floorboards, and discarded physical storage drives, like tiny memory cards or microscopic flash drives easily forgotten during a panicked escape, which might hold hundreds of hours of video stalking the victim's house. Authorities haven't officially confirmed discovering any of these items yet. The Bureau actively refuses to reveal the specific results from their thorough sweep. I am simply detailing the standard procedures of modern forensics. This represents precisely what elite crime scene technicians methodically hunt for while following the strategic parameters previously discussed by the media. Here is the federal agency's exact response when journalists contacted their regional field office. "We demanded immediate answers regarding the empty property and the active builder probe." The official reply stated that they consistently ignore inquiries originating from freelance journalism. They completely hid behind standard Department of Justice silence during active cases, which is basically government speak for slamming a heavy gate shut. Keep in mind that federal agents have been surprisingly selective about what details they actually drop. They openly shared the porch video, verified the biological fluid, and admitted genetic material was left behind. So when they label this a calculated abduction but absolutely refuse to discuss one particular address, that glaring omission screams volumes. Law enforcement never claimed they completely searched the premises, nor did they ever explicitly state the location was clean. Their total silence is incredibly loud, making this specific blackout a highly calculated maneuver. Retired federal operative Jennifer Kidnapper gave a blunt update on where things officially stood toward the end of March. She believes Nancy's disappearance is blazing hot behind closed doors on every possible front, claiming our lack of inside access means nothing. She promised detectives are absolutely drowning in an overwhelming flood of fresh tips, way beyond what typical missing person files generate. Remember, this comes from an experienced veteran who intimately understands exactly how intensely these massive manhunts operate in the shadows. Let us break down the undeniable facts. We will also separate the widespread rumors from absolute truth, because you clearly deserve total transparency. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie officially vanished on the 1st of February, 2026. Investigators found bloodstains right outside. Her system went dark at 1:47 in the morning, and a masked intruder carrying a sidearm was taped. Authorities profiled the attacker as a man standing roughly 5'9" to 5'10". Unidentified genetic markers were pulled from the house, prompting Sheriff Nanos to publicly declare this a highly calculated strike. Relatives posted a $1 million bounty, while the Federal Bureau added another $100,000. Citizens have flooded the lines with 13,000 leads, yet she remains entirely vanished, leaving us to rely on experts. Reporter Brian Anton claims agents are circling back to a deserted lease house, though the top brass absolutely refuses to formally verify that rumor. Anton also leaked the meticulous background checks on local tradesmen. We spotted a massive scheduling clash between reporters concerning when the previous tenants actually moved out. Kreger suggested a nearby launch point, though his educated guess is strictly theoretical. Kidnapper believes a dry run happened on January 11th, sparking fresh, unconfirmed theories about a potential getaway driver. Former investigator Kurt Dabb pieced together his own chilling narrative using entirely public clues. We tracked down every rumor and separated fact from fiction regarding this sweet 84-year-old grandmother. Snatched barefoot in the dead of night wearing only sleepwear, she was ripped away from the crucial daily prescriptions that keep her alive. Savannah Guthrie described her loved ones as living in pure torment, pleading for witnesses traveling through the Catalina Foothills between January 11th and February 1st. Back in 2026, did you happen to spot any totally suspicious rides? Maybe a lurking stranger, or a sudden flicker of light glowing inside an allegedly deserted residence. If a random car mysteriously vanished, dial 1-800-CALL-FBI immediately, or visit tips.fbi.gov. Especially since Anton hinted at major developments. The feds strongly suspect that a predator actually set up shop at a completely separate house sitting right down the street. Former Pima County Tactical Chief Bob Creek offered a terrifying perspective. He evaluated the terrain, concluding that this specific address perfectly served as an operational headquarters. It became an absolute sniper nest, offering the kidnapper unlimited time to silently stalk a defenseless 84-year-old lady. Now the vehicle has completely vanished. The rooms are stripped bare, and agents are desperately reconstructing every single second spent inside those walls. Nancy remains missing, but our team absolutely refuses to back down until we expose the truth. Hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell, and forward this breakdown to anyone else obsessed with finding justice here. Sound off in the comments with what you think investigators actually uncovered inside that abandoned house. Keeping this story viral makes it impossible for this monster to blend back into society, and we owe it to Nancy to bring her home. This story is more than a crime, it's a powerful reminder of how fragile safety can be. Even in the most peaceful places, a quiet neighborhood, familiar faces, routines we trust. All of it can create an illusion that nothing bad could ever happen here. But danger doesn't always break in loudly. It studies, waits, and blends in. That's what makes awareness so important. Not fear, but attention. Not panic, but presence. At the same time, this case exposes something deeper about human responsibility. When small signs are ignored, when voices are delayed, or when systems fail to act quickly enough, the cost can be devastating. Yet it also shows the opposite, how one observant neighbor, one phone call, or one memory can become a crucial piece of truth. And at the heart of it all is love, a family refusing to give up, a daughter holding on to hope, a community that refuses to let a story disappear. The lesson is simple, but powerful. Stay aware, speak up, and never assume something is too small to matter. Because sometimes, the smallest detail is the one that brings someone home.